Hi guys, I'm Darren, and in this video we're going to be talking about the SonicModell Mini AR wing. Now this isn't an unboxing, this is a review after having it for quite some time. So let's have a look at how this model's done. Alright, so here we have the SonicModell AR wing. Now this actually comes in a pretty small box, not much bigger than the wings, and total wingspan is about 600 millimeters. Even though it doesn't quite look like it, this is pretty much stock at the moment. The only thing I have changed is the winglets, just because the original ones broke off, and these ones I laser cut myself, and they've worked reasonably well. So other than the winglets, all that I've changed is the prop, which I need to change again because, as you can see, this one's a bit chewed up now, especially that tip. So that will be changing again. But this is the stock motor. I've put LEDs on it. Yeah, other than added components, it's the stock servos. So why not do an unboxing? Why do this now? Well, I've had this, I'd imagine, for about a year, maybe a bit longer, and I've been pretty impressed. What you'll probably see on screen now is the footage of this thing going in on the last flight. Now, I've not actually done anything to this other than, well, let's have a look inside. You can see I've lost a magnet. This is a bit wobbly, and I smashed the camera lens in, but the battery didn't even puff. So this is minimal gluing to get this back together. I mean, even the magnets are still there, but it did pull a wire off of the flight controller for the receiver. So I connected that back together. That's all I've done, just so I could get some settings. The flight controller, everything else is absolutely fine, but I do have messy wiring. Actually, that's the only other thing, is the remote plug on the cam actually pulled out. Standard plug's fine, but the remote plug pulled out, which is a bit weird. So I'll get that fixed. So this is a pretty tough little plane. I'm impressed. I mean, I popped the camera out, and there's some the marks on it are actually from when I've glued the nose before. So it actually looks like it's broken in similar places, but yeah, it's just cyano marks. So I will change the lens on this camera and it will be absolutely fine. It's just got a crack in the case, but that's really nothing to worry about. So the Predator will live again. The only other thing is the motor sounds a little bit noisy. I don't know if you can hear it. It sounds like there's a magnet loose. So I might pull this apart. I did hear the noise and bought a replacement motor. So if I do decide to change the motor, this will be going on in its place. But I have actually powered this up and it does spin. So I'm tempted to just give it another go. But this is going to be the replacement. There's a Xing 2206, 2750 kV. So it's a little bit bigger. Getting an 1806 I found was an absolute pain in the arse. You could either get this exact motor, which I didn't really want to do because it's Racer Star at the end of the day. They're not the best quality motors. Other than the new T-motor partnered ones, they're brilliant. These standard things are really not great. So I got, this was the next lightest thing I could find. Incidentally, T-Motor used to make 1806s, but you just can't get them anymore, which is annoying because that would fit straight on there and would be a much better quality motor. So I have to go bigger, which means heavier. But one thing I will say about this, if you're running stock setup, I use the standoff holes in the plywood board, move your flight controller and all the components in here as far back as you can, because I was finding I needed to put my battery pretty much back on the flight controller to get everything balanced. With this heavier motor, I can obviously now move it forward and it should be all fine. But if you're running stock, move that as far back as you can. Don't use the holes in the board. Also, it'll give you more space if you want to run lithium ions, that sort of thing. But other than that, this has been a fantastic little plane. It's, you know, it's a small wing. It's not going to be the smoothest thing in the sky, but it can handle wind quite well. The only other downside that I found was if you try and PID tune it in iNav, you do get to a stage where it develops flutter, and it's sort of around a quarter to maybe just over half throttle, and it will actually be that way. It's like a flutter. So coming in for landing, it was an absolute nightmare. But as soon as you take the power off and let it glide in, it lost all the flutter. It's just the mid speeds, it would flutter. And then if you pin the throttle and go flat out, it actually leveled off again. So it was a weird thing. But at the moment, I've not tuned this. This is just using, it went back to a more standard PID setup, and it was actually fine. So I might put my PIDs in the video description. But bear in mind that this hasn't actually been properly tuned yet. Would I recommend this model? Absolutely. The price, I mean, at the time when it was new out, I believe it was about £45. And that's for the plug and play. That's with the servos, the ESC, the motor, everything apart from the FPV stuff and the flight controller. And obviously the receiver. So that is an absolute bargain. Really, I think it's gone up to about 50 now, but even so, it's still a bargain for a plane like this. It's brilliant price. Yeah, I would highly recommend one. I mean, this is running 3 to 4S standard. I used to 3S just to get my eye in. 4S would be for much more fun. I was running a 1300 3S pack and a 1000 4S pack because they weighed within about a gram the same. So I knew I could always hit CG. I mean, flight times with those, I'm guessing, depends how you fly it in all honesty, but for me, it was probably about 5 to 10 minutes, depending on how much full throttle I was giving it. But to be honest, if you're starting out and you're new to this, maybe leave this for the second plane, because where it's smaller, it has got less natural self-leveling. It is a bit more twitchy. If you're new, go for something a bit bigger, between 800 and 1000 millimeters. That's a sweet spot. I'd recommend something like maybe a C1 Chaser. They're lovely floaty planes. They'd be ideal for someone new. There's the big brother to this, the standard AR wing. That's about 900 millimeters. Again, that would be good. S800 is a bit more twitchy, but unless you're absolutely dead set on a wing, if you're first getting into FPV, I would actually recommend a plane, something like a Bixler. You can still FPV it, but it's slower, much more stable, and you'll get better flights out of it, and it'll be easier to launch. A lot of guys these days seem to be coming over from quads, and actually once you're in the air, you'd probably be fine. But a lot of quad guys find it difficult launching, and something like a Bixler, you just give it some power, throw it, and it will pretty much climb on its own. So it's a hell of a lot easier to launch one of those than a wing. And also, if you're a quad guy, you're probably used to a rudder, and there's a lot of rudder input, whereas a Bixler has a rudder, whereas this doesn't. So you're not used to banking and yanking. So yeah, for a first plane, I would still recommend over any wing something like a Bixler, Sky Surfer, Volantex Ranger, something like that. Then get a wing. Once you got the basics sorted out and you're happy with what you're doing, you can still have a lot of fun with one of those planes. If you don't believe how much a Bixler can be thrown about, have a look up the Funny Farm on YouTube and Andy Bolton, and see how much he throws one of those Bixler 2s around the sky. They're absolutely insane in the wrong hands, or the right hands, I guess. So, yeah, probably not great for a beginner. Have it as a second wing, but it's a well-recommended wing. So I figured while I'm still here, I might as well show the repairs I've done. So it's taken me about an hour, I guess. But as you can see, it's now ready to fly. So I didn't have any round magnets, so I've just hot glued a square one in. But it holds enough. I mean, it's not as strong as the one on that side, but it's not going to come off. It's fine. So what else was there? There's the motor. Now, I took it off. I couldn't see any loose magnets, but the X plate at the back, the fixing bolts that fix that to the motor itself were all loose. So if you do get one of these, it might be worth just pulling that off, or taking the motor off and then just checking that those bolts are nice and snug. But it doesn't seem as noisy anymore. So maybe the noise was actually vibration from the motor on the motor mount. But it hadn't stripped any threads, so I think that had just worked loose over time. So it may be something just to keep checking. I haven't put the jing on there because I'll need to change the ESC if I do that. So I might just get a 30 amp ESC and then change it all over at once. So that's the motor. That's all ready to go. The nose part, as you can see, this is all fixed together. This is a nice simple fix. Just use Yoo-hoo pour and use it as a contact adhesive. So put it on there, hold the parts together, taking them off, leave it about 5 minutes, so squeeze them together, and it's absolutely solid. Same, I rebuilt all this part here with the same technique. So the camera I've swapped out for a Foxeer Razor, because I bought two of these because they're 13 quid each. They're really cheap cameras, and I wanted to test to see how good they are, basically, because on specs there's not a lot different between that and this, which is the original Predator. What I've seen so far is obviously they've got slightly different plugs. This has a voltage sense, whereas this doesn't, but I don't care about that. I'm using a flight controller. And this, the case is more plasticky than this one. This one is it's a nicer plastic, but who really cares about that? It's stuck inside foam. So, but sensor and the sensor specs and everything, they seemed quite similar on paper. So it'd be interesting to see how well this performs compared to the old Predator. So I've just put a bit of Blenderm tape on here because it was a little bit slack in the hole. But it's all ready to go. So just in case anyone wants to know my setup, let's go over. As I say, most of this is the plug and play kit. You can only get this as a plug and play kit. Yeah, not much more can be said about that. I'm running a Matek F405 standard with the FC Hub 6S PDB underneath. Under here, I have the BTAN BN180 GPS. People, for some reason, they say don't bother with 180, always get the 220. I've never had an issue with a 180. I have a 220 in other models, and these are just as quick to get satellites as the 220s. They're smaller, they're lighter, they cost the same as the 220, so it doesn't really make any difference for that. But they're smaller and they're lighter, so that's why I go for the 180s, especially in small things like this. Bigger things, it doesn't matter. Go for whatever you want. I believe this is an AKK X2 Ultimate, but I'm not 100% sure. I'm just going by the plug. Actually, no, it can't be. It's a screw-on. So I have no idea what my VTX is. Possibly an Eachine. I think I use the 5686 or whatever they are, but they're basically adjustable to 600 milliwatts, but it's got smart audio, so that's why I use it. In this side, there is an R9mm, which people seem to hate. I've never had an issue with this. I know there was a bad batch of R9MMs. I've absolutely no problems with this. But what you'll see here is an adapter, because since they came out, pretty much all FreeSky R9 receivers are known to not have the best antennas in the world. So that adapter goes to IPEX 1, and then I have a Crossfire, just the little whip antenna thing. So it's just a standard Crossfire antenna, but they are tuned better than the R9 stuff. There's no getting around that. Even the Super 8 and all that is still not tuned brilliantly. So R9mm, which is running S-Bus and S-Port. I'd never run F-Port, so I have full telemetry with this, no problems whatsoever. And that's it. Everything else, as I say, is standard. It's the standard, I believe it's a 20 amp ESC. I know that there were 2 different ESCs that came with the Mini AR. There's this one here, which is quite fat, and it's quite bulky. It's got a big square lump on the top of it. And then there was another slimmer one. And my friend had the slimmer one in his, and he had loads of problems with jittering motor, which seemed to be down to timing, that sort of thing. He'd put the throttle up slowly and it would be fine. If you put the throttle up quickly, it would be just jittering, wouldn't come on. We couldn't connect that one to BL Heli Suite or anything like that, but this one does connect. So if you're having problems with your ESC, check which one it is. One of them is definitely a better ESC than the other. He ended up just swapping his ESC out, and he had no problems after doing that. So I don't really know what else I can say. My video system, this is an LC filter. It's powered off of the PDB, and the VTX and the camera both get power after the LC filter. I'm trying it on the S800. I'm just finishing off. I'm trying a different way of doing this because you still get some noise. So yeah, there we go. So that is the overview of my Mini AR wing. If you have any questions, please leave a comment and I'll get back to you. So thank you guys very much for watching. I'm actually going to get this repaired now so I can go fly it today. Like I said, I'm going to just stick a new camera in it. And I'm tempted just to even fly it with this motor. If it lasts a day, it lasts a day. Perfect. So thank you guys for watching. Please hit the like button. Please subscribe if you found the video useful. And if you click the notification bell icon, you'll get alerts for when my next videos are out with more cool stuff. If there's anything you'd like to see discussed on the channel, please get in contact and I'll see what I can do. But thank you guys. Have fun. Fly your models like you stole them. And see you on the next time. Bye bye.